Hi, it's me, Crystal. So I've been really busy the last couple of weeks. I've been busy editing. I also did some proofreading and beta reading for a writing friend. And so I've been really busy. But as of filming this video, I have 21 chapters left to edit. I'm doing 2 rounds of editing, so I have 2 more rounds of editing for this last 21 chapters, and then I will be done editing. I am still deciding if I want to do like a third, like super nitpicky round to try to find some more typos, or if I'm just going to go ahead and query the story. But in either case, I'm almost done and I'm on track to meet my third quarter writing goal. So if you saw that video or if you didn't see that video, my writing goals for the third quarter were to edit Ari's story, query Ari's story, and start the next project. And I thought it was a little ambitious because at the time that I made those goals, I had not finished Ari's story. But I finished July the 11th. And so I took a break for about 5 days and then got started editing because why wait? And yeah, I'm really enjoying editing the story and reading it and making changes, doing the best I can. So also in that goals video though, I said that the next project that I was going to be working on was my chaos story, and I wanted it on record in case I changed my mind because I just think it's funny how often I change my mind. But I think I actually know why, and I think it has something to do with how I naturally choose the next project for to work on. And it has something to do with I'm looking for 2 things. I'm looking for a story that has an undercurrent of whatever kind of feeling that I am just like super into at the moment. And right now I want this undercurrent of something that's like disturbing and but something that's gripping me, because everything disturbing is not going to be gripping. And the second thing I'm looking for is I'm looking to feel like this undercurrent of excitement like in my body. And it doesn't have to show up as soon as I get the idea. It can show up later. So it not showing up immediately is not a problem. But when I start thinking about writing the story, like that feeling needs to show up. And so basically I just get this rush of excitement in my whole body, like, you know, through my torso, down my arms and legs and my brain. And it's like I get like really excited. I'm like, I have to write this story. I will do anything to write this story. And so usually when I feel like that, I'm like ready to work on that book. I want to work on that book. And I usually end up really enjoying the process. So I said that the next project I was going to work on was my chaos story, so that if I change my mind, then you would know. And surprise, surprise, I changed my mind. And so that's what this video is about, is basically why I changed my mind. And so to help me illustrate the point, there are 2 like mini stories I want to tell first. And the first one happened after I finished The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden, which I think was like end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And there were these 2 scenes in particular that when I read them in the book, my brain was just like, this is what I want. I want to write a book that makes me feel the way these scenes are making me feel. And I didn't really understand like how to like hone in on that. And so I was talking about it with a writing friend, the same one who I was beta reading for, and she also read the book and really liked it. And the 2 scenes in particular, if you read the book, are there are multiple points of view in that story, and one of them is this priest guy, this young priest. And so there's a scene, there are these 2 scenes where he is in his room and he's talking to these shadows, and he thinks he's talking to God, but really he's talking to this frost demon. And there's like this undercurrent of like something really unsettling and disturbing in that scene. And I called it beautiful, sexy darkness. And I just wanted like a little mini cloud of it to follow me around and rain on me. And I was like, I want to soak in this. What is this? And so when I was talking to my writing friend, you know, she was talking about how like you have writers who they write because they want to go on an adventure, or they want to explore a certain topic, or they want to get these 2 characters together. And some writers write because we want to feel a certain way. We want to invoke a certain feeling. And I was like, that is the kind of writer that I am. That is exactly the words that I need to describe that. I write because I want to feel something. It's, you know, the characters are important and the plot is important, but I start with that feeling, and that is where that excitement is coming from. You know, like when I got the idea for Ari's story, there was just something, beautiful and disturbing about the idea, and I wanted it so bad. And I actually think this is probably how I work in general when it comes to settling on ideas, but now I'm kind of seeing a pattern and I'm starting to understand this process better. And I think this will help me in the future to where I stress less about it, because usually what will happen is I say, oh, I'm going to work on chaos next. And then I'll start feeling stressed out. And that feeling won't go away. And so my brain starts wanting an out. It's like, I don't want to write this right now. Who cares why? And then I will go look for other ideas. So when I settled on the Ari story, I purposely picked two. I picked that story because I was really excited about it. And I picked this other story, this kind of futuristic story. And it was very clear when I started talking about it with friends and coworkers and family, that it was like, I'm clearly, even though the futuristic story was a little bit more gelled and together, I was clearly more excited about Ari's story. And so the second example that I think kind of illustrates my point, the second mini story, was a couple of months ago. I was talking to a coworker who is also a writer. She writes YA fantasy, like dragons, like dark, fun dragons where there's like blood and stuff. Anyway. And she was talking about, we were discussing something and I was trying to explain what I was talking about, but again, I didn't have the words for it, but she knew what I was talking about. And she said that she has found that there are seasons to writing. Like there's not just seasons that we have as writers, like more productive seasons and less productive seasons, but we also have seasons for our ideas. Like there are some ideas that fit better, 3 years ago or 3 years from now than like the present day. So you might have a story that you were really excited about 3 years ago and you set it aside for whatever reason, you were busy, whatever. And then you go back to it a few years later and you remember how much you loved it. And there's just like, you can't get it to work. And that's because you have moved on. Okay. And the same can be true. You could get an idea and you're like, oh, I really love this idea. I really love these characters, but you can't get it to work. And then like a few years later, you stumble across it. And then all of a sudden your brain is just latched onto it, And that made a lot of sense to me because I think it explains why I don't want to write the chaos story right now. And that's because I just don't feel like it is the right season for that story for whatever reason. Try not to overthink it, but like I can feel in my body and in my brain, like when I settled on it, I just really wanted an out. And because I can write what I want, I'm like, just go ahead, give yourself that out. It's fine. And so then I decided that I was going to take a couple of older ideas and merge them with a new idea. And that's because I was kind of getting a gut feeling that I needed to focus on my newer ideas right now, because there's something about my older ideas that are either stressing me out or they're just not working right now. And I do think it's because this current season that I'm in with my writing, those ideas are not fitting in this season. It may come back up later, but right now I cannot drum up enough excitement to write those stories. And whenever I start a new story, there is a lot of stumbling, as I get used to the characters and I get used to the world and I get settled into the story and the plot, there's a lot of stumbling that happens and I need a lot of excitement and love for the story to help me, through the chaotic, beginnings of a new idea. So once I accepted that the chaos story was just not it right now, I switched my focus to this mashup where I took these like two fairy tale ideas that I had that were older and I merged it with this newer one. And I could feel that it would work. And I'm like, okay, this feels right. This feels good. Let's just do this next. But I didn't have that undercurrent of excitement. There was nothing in the story that was gripping me. I was excited about it. I'm interested in it, but I'm not being gripped. I was like, that's okay. Like, I have other ideas. And so I decided, I got two stalker ideas like pretty close together, like within like a few days of each other. And so I was like, that's okay. I'll just do this stalker idea number one. And I started thinking about it and I was like, this doesn't feel baked. Okay. So I'm just the kind of person, I'm like, I don't think it matters when I work on a project. If I get an idea and I start working on it a week later, or if I get an idea and I work on it 2 or 3 years later or 10 years later, I work on it like whenever that excitement shows up for the story. And so I get this idea and I really like the idea and I'm very interested in it, but something's just like missing. I don't know what it is. So then I go back to this, mashup of all these different fairy tales. And I am thinking about it on the way to work one day. And so I start talking about it with a coworker who also writes a different one. A lot of writers where I work. And this one she's working on a dystopian story. And so she, was asking me about it, and she's like, okay, yeah, let's talk about the idea, let's brainstorm. And so we had a really good brainstorming session. It was really fun and it was very helpful, and I felt more settled with the idea, but the excitement didn't show up. I didn't worry about it because I was like, okay, yeah, this will definitely work. I have 2 parts, I have part 1 and I have part 2, and everything is good. And then I just kind of felt that there was something about part 2 that is not working in this current season that I'm in, and it's like I seem to have been more interested in all the stuff that goes on in part 1. And so I'm like, I either need to change things again, or I need to let it sit some more. I don't know. And so I was like, that's fine. I'll do Stalker Story number 1. And so I decided to do some stalker research to help me, with like the law enforcement side and also the psychology behind like, the different kinds of stalkers and like how their mind works and some of the nonsense that they pull off and things of that nature, because I had some ideas for things that the stalker, could do in that story, but I thought it would be helpful for me to do some research as well. And I also thought it would be fun to do some research. And so it was extremely helpful. But a few days into me doing research, I started feeling the second stalker story like rising to the top, and I started becoming like very into like that idea. And I think it's because I have a different kind of stalker in the second stalker story, and I'm more interested in that stalker than I am in the first stalker. And like I said, I might drum up a lot of excitement for the first stalker idea later, but right now I was like, I'm definitely more interested in the second one. So I think how I'm going to approach picking the idea in the future is I'm just going to go ahead and let myself juggle 2 or 3 ideas and see if any of those are gripping me. And if none of them grip me, then I'll go back into the plot bunny field. I will get 2 or 3 more ideas and I will juggle those. And I think that's going to work really well for me because I know what it is that I'm looking for in the back of my head. I know it when I see it. And so when I started writing down, like specific nonsense that the stalker can pull in the second stalker story, I was like extremely interested in it. And I really, really wanted it. And then that's when I felt like that current of excitement in my body. And I was like, I want the story. Like, I don't care if it's half-baked. Like, I will figure it out. And that's how I approached Ari's story. And that's how I have approached a lot of other stories in the past when I have really enjoyed the process. And when I finished the stories, I loved them, so I feel very confident that the second stalker story, working title Dollhouse, is my next project. If I change the working title, I will let you know. So this second idea is clearly a faster moving idea. There are already vines all over my head with all these different ideas. It's bearing all kinds of crazy fruit. So I'm really excited. So that's all for this video, and hopefully future me will either reference this video or remember that this is just part of the process of me settling on a new project, that it's actually good that I juggle a few ideas, because that way I can feel in my body when one of them is definitely rising to the top and gripping me and, pulling at me, and it just feels really good. So yeah, so I hope you guys are having a good August. And I hope you have a good week. And happy reading, happy writing. And I will see you guys in the next video. I don't know when that's going to be because, I just really enjoy, writing and editing and stuff. So I'm also trying to get some reading done as well. But I will see you guys. And nothing else. I will see you guys when I finish editing our story, and then we will talk about it and what it's about, and I will send some queries out, and it will be a good time. So I will see you guys soon. Bye.